right. Good morning to you all. The notion of trolley problems is kind of an interesting one because you can have people who are equally well-meaning, I would say, and of roughly equal moral fiber who disagree vehemently about what should be done in blank situation. There's kind of a notion in Isaac Asimov's books that I would think of as almost the quintessential trolley problem. It seems to be at the heart of this, divisive issue. Maybe what makes humans different in this regard. So there's a notion of the three laws. I'm going to geek out here for a second. But the three laws would go according to so the first one is a robot may not harm a human or through an action allow a human to come to harm. The second being a robot must obey an order given to it by a human, except in scenarios where such obedience would interfere with the first law or conflict with the first law. Third, a robot must protect its own existence, except where such protection would interfere with the first or second law. Something to that effect. That would be the idea. And for the record, there was a weird thing in one of his books where they fiddled with that, where they redefined what a human was, so that like a human only included a certain sect of or a certain sect of humans, and then everyone else would they couldn't give the robots orders effectively. Anyways, the last one, and the one that supersedes all the others, it was added later, it was considered to be the logical extrapolation of the first law, was that a robot may not harm humanity or through an action allow humanity to come to harm. It's kind of an intriguing notion, and it feels like this is like the quintessential trolley problem. It's what's kind of at the heart of it all, right? Can you sacrifice one human for the sake of humanity? What's the dynamic there? For the record, it's not all trolley problems, but I think a significant portion of it is this notion of sacrificing a singular entity for the sake of the greater whole, and what morality goes into that. Anyways, thought that was kind of interesting. For the record, also that zeroth law, which is responsible, I think is responsible for a couple of things in his book, where I think there was literally a point where a president was assassinated, maybe by one of his robotic decoys, and then replaced by him. I want to read that one sometime or listen to it or something. That one sounded interesting. And then also Daniel Oliva, I think, kind of utilized it. Actually, Giscard first, and then all right. Anyways, enough nerd stuff. Thought that was kind of an interesting notion, because it feels like it's just basically a variability in perspective, or the way we weigh potentials in our head that allows for that. Anyways, moving on. We have some stuff to look at here. A couple of videos to review. I have to think about it. I might have to start making my picture smaller, because it feels like the last couple of times it's been interfering with or getting in the way of whatever. Alright. The VOD. That's what they say. Alright. Moving on, we have one from 42. 42, yeah. Yeah. What was it? In 173. Okay. Interesting.
Stories. No matter the era or the geography, every culture tells stories. And like the people who tell them, these
Except
stories...
for the French, who are a backwards individual type of decadent people. No.
come in all different shapes and sizes. Some are new.
Technically, there might be like a teensy bit of French in our background. Not enough to matter, not enough to make us weird, okay? Just a little bit.
Many are old. Some are designed to teach important lessons, others simply to entertain. For the most part, these stories are just that, stories. Tall tales passed from generation to generation, but every now and again...
That's the truth. Every story has a kernel of truth in it, or every lie has a kernel of truth. It's kind of hard to come up with something from nothing, so generally speaking, I tend to think there's a little bit of something behind it.
Again, hidden away amongst the fairy tales and local legends, is something truly remarkable. An ancient tale that, no matter how outlandish or fantastical it may sound, it might just be real. This video is about...
Aurora Borealis, they're like really cool. We live a little bit far enough north that we sometimes get them, but we don't really get the crazy colors that I think you would get further up north. Sometimes that'd be fun to go watch.
One such story. It concerns events that took place near a small English village almost 900 years ago. It's a story about green children and underground kingdoms. Details that on the...
It looks different somehow. I'm not for sure why. Maybe it's the lighting thing?
Surface are clearly ridiculous, and yet many historians suspect this ancient piece of bizarre English folklore might actually be true. Now, you might already be familiar with this story, particularly if you're a Brit like me, but just in case
I'm not a Brit like you.
You aren't, allow me to tell you about the strange case of the Green Children of Woolpit. Sometime in the mid-12th century, two unknown children, a boy and a girl, were discovered lost and alone on the outskirts.
What's it? Is silver the one that can turn your skin like blue or something? That's like a type of interesting, like I think it's like direct contact with like raw silver or something like that can turn your skin blue. It's weird.
The English village of Woolpit. So named because it was built near a series of pits that were dug to trap wolves. Nobody knew who these children were or where they'd come from.
That was actually, for the record, I think that was actually a huge thing back in the day where like there was one, I don't remember what the name of the story is, but there was one where they literally had such an issue with them that I think they had... There was something where like their wolves were actually in their streets and whatnot, and they would come right into the cities because they were that hungry. But they had literally, I think, opened up the city gates, let all the wolves in, closed them, and then kind of let the wolves starve or something. I'm sure they were trying to kill all of them.
But one thing was crystal clear: they weren't local. For starters, they wore strange clothes and spoke an unknown
I think that was a thing. It might have just been a tall tale or some novel scenario that someone dreamt up, but it's kind of interesting anyways.
Language. But there was something even more unusual about these frightened foundlings. Their skin was bright green. Now, I'm the first person to say that people come in all different shapes and sizes and skin colors. But as far as I'm aware, green isn't usually
Clearly the devil's work.
one of them. Despite their frankly alarming appearance, these were still children who clearly needed help. And so the good people of Woolpit took them in, offering them shelter, fresh clothes, and sustenance. Or at least...
I kind of like the animation style that he does.
They tried to. The clothes and shelter went down just fine, but the sustenance? Not so much. The children were clearly famished, but they refused every single morsel that was put in front of them for several days. That is, until they happened across a patch of broad beans growing in a garden, which they attacked with the enthusiasm of a
Because they're green, obviously.
drunk student in a kebab shop at 2
beans and
a.m. Over time, the children were accepted into the Woolpit community. They learnt to eat normal food, and they were both baptized at the local church. The girl...
Based. No, I don't know. There's I feel like there's a point where you want to be a little bit careful about letting kids get baptized if they're just like kind of doing a group there's a lot of peer pressure maybe when you're growing up. I think it's better if children are choosing like independently if they want to be baptized, if they want to become part of the church, or whatever the case is, that's a conscious decision they make. Otherwise it's just kind of a thing where later they're like, oh, okay, that was the thing that I did, but I'm not really interested in now. It's better if it's something that's going to stick, so it's better if it's something that they themselves choose.
But her green skin faded to a normal, healthy pink, and she even learnt to speak English. But the boy never adapted to his new surroundings. He grew slowly weaker and eventually died.
Oh dear.
Now that the girl spoke the lingo, the inhabitants of Woolpit were keen to understand her story. Who was she? Where had she and her brother come from? And most importantly of all, why the hell were they bright green? The girl was only too happy to answer these questions. But rather than solve the mystery, her batshit insane origin story only added to it. And now for a quick ad from Ado. Ado is an...
To be fair, like, it feels like I'd heard the notion that, like, when you, I guess, oh, never mind, forget about that. But the notion would be, like, I don't know if kids would always remember what they're going through entirely correctly, and they might create a story around it. They might misremember it or remember it in such a way as to be less traumatic for themselves. So it's a little bit strange that way.
All-in-one business management software that provides entrepreneurs with a range of applications to simplify the
Powered by AI. I don't know.
day-to-day management of their business. Invoicing, accounting, project
It's the new Bluetooth.
management, inventory, website creation, and more. Ado grows with you, allowing you to add apps as your business develops and your needs change. Now, running a YouTube channel isn't just writing, filming, and editing. There's a mountain of paperwork, NDAs, scanning them back. One should have to sign and adding one or any signatories in over one completely free with its first app offer, which is free for life. So try your first Ado app free for life.
Link in the description.
Click the link in the description below. Don't miss out.
Did you know 90% of all puzzles are
Another
flowers,
pearl.
animals, or landscapes? Well, we thought that was boring.
Okay, I want to watch this one.
This is Odd Pieces. It's not your ordinary puzzle.
That's cool.
It's a mystery with a secret ending.
I might have looked
And the
that one
picture
up.
on the box, that's not what you're building. That's the world before.
She claimed that she and the boy, her younger brother,
Odd Pieces.
were from somewhere called St. Martin's Land, a place of perpetual twilight where the inhabitants all had green skin, just like them. Separated from St. Martin's Land by a wide river was another city or territory of some kind. The girl didn't know its name, but she claimed that unlike her homeland, it was always bathed in light. As for how she and her brother ended up outside of Woolpit, the girl's explanation was just as bizarre. She claimed they were taking care of their father's cattle when they heard a strange melodic sound. They traced the music to the mouth of a cave, and like the hot babysitter in a slasher movie,
It's like reverse Chronicles of Narnia.
investigating a noise in the basement, they decided to take a look around. They wondered
Think how disappointing it would be if you came from a world like Narnia. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe that novelty is just a matter of perspective, but it feels like satyrs and witches and whatnot. Man, that's pretty crazy.
the cave for a long time, guided by the music. Eventually it led them back above ground, where the light was so bright they could hardly open their eyes. When they tried to turn back, the cave had disappeared, and they were found by the people of Woolpit soon afterwards. Now, at this point, I'd forgive you for thinking that
Sweet glory. All right.
there is literally no way in hell any of this nonsense actually happened. That's exactly what I thought when I started researching this story. But I wasn't joking when I said many historians believe the strange tale of the Green Children of Woolpit is actually true. Or to borrow a phrase from Hollywood, that at the very least it is based on real events. So what's going on here? How can such a blatantly ridiculous story have actually happened? Let's
My thought is maybe they got a hold of some sort of psychedelic mushrooms. Just saying.
start from the beginning. We know about the Green Children of Woolpit from two different primary sources. William of Newburgh's Historia Rerum Anglicarum, written at the tail end of the 12th century, and Ralph of Coggeshall's Chronicum Anglicanum, written some 30 years later. These aren't quite contemporary accounts. Even Newburgh's was likely written a decade or two after the events took place, but they're close enough that first-hand witnesses could still have been alive. The two retellings are very similar. In fact, the key elements of the story are identical. But there are enough
Interesting. The plot thickens.
differences to suggest they are independent retellings gathered from different sources. That's important because it suggests Ralph Coggeshall didn't just copy William of Newburgh's homework. He found out about the story from elsewhere. That fits with what we know about their sources. William
And there's kind of notions like that too, like where if a thing is flawed in a different way, and it kind of adds to that as well. As you can get different mistakes from different individuals or something like that. But in this case, I don't know if there would be much case to. It's like if you copy someone else's answers, then you end up with a test score that reflects that, or whatever. Yeah, you get the same problems wrong. That's the point. In this case, I guess that's not really a thing because, I mean, there wasn't really much to check it against. There wasn't other historical accounts that would conflict with these two.
Of Newburgh claims he heard the
Or
account
there wouldn't be, like, established historical records. That's my point. Okay.
from multiple trustworthy persons, and Ralph of Coggeshall goes one step further, naming local knight Sir Richard de Carn of Wykes as his source. According to Coggeshall, the Green Children lived with de Carn after they were first found. Both texts are serious historical works, and they present the story of the Green Children of Woolpit as simple fact, and not some kind of fable or allegory. None of this proves for certain that the story is real, but it does suggest that something genuinely unusual happened near Woolpit. Something memorable enough that two respected chroniclers, writing independently and decades apart, both judged it worth recording as history rather than hearsay. And the fact that the two accounts are so similar, green skin and all, makes it much harder to dismiss the seemingly impossible details. So what's going on here? How on earth did two bright green children turn up in the middle of 12th century England, dressed in strange clothes and speaking and...
If you could change your skin into whatever color you wanted, what would it be? And no racial appropriation. To be fair, growing up, I was told that apparently I thought my skin was so bland, and I thought maybe I was wishing it would be black or something. I'm not for sure.
An unknown language. Well, believe it or not, there may well be a perfectly rational answer to that question. But let's start by getting the more outlandish theories out of the way first. In
Don't tell me. Alternate
news that
realities,
will surprise absolutely
That's
nobody.
the only explanation.
Plenty of tinfoil hat enthusiasts have linked the story of the Green Children of Woolpit with, well, basically everything. One of the most popular theories is that the children weren't human at all, but fairies. The British Isles are steeped in centuries of fairy folklore, and a couple of green kids emerging from a hole in the ground is a play straight out of the Fair Folk textbook. Admittedly, fairies aren't typically depicted as having green skin, but they are strongly associated with the colour green. They're also often described
It's like sprites or something.
as living in some kind of underground world. They would naturally speak another language and presumably don't shop
you
at
for that.
Zara. In many ways, the fairy theory
If you're just listening, there's some censoring going on. A lot of fairies, I think, were depicted naked. So.
is a perfect fit. Except for the minor downside that it relies on fairies actually being real. And if you happen to believe in fairies, plenty of people do, just ask Reddit, then you can probably turn this video off right now. For you, the fairy theories are slam dunk. If you don't, well, a 900-year-old story
I don't know. It just doesn't like really jive.
about
Feels a little
bright
bit forced. I'll put it that way. And for the record, I don't know if I believe in fairies either. I think most legends, again, I think they have some sort of basis, but
green kids is unlikely to change your mind. As for me, I'm happy to file this one away in the clearly mental drawer. And whilst we're at it, we can stick several other Woolpit theories in there with it. No, the children were not aliens, nor
how
were
dare you?
they visitors from a parallel dimension. They don't prove Hollow Earth is real. They weren't turned green by exposure to radiation, and they didn't arrive on Earth from another planet after an unfortunate teleporter malfunction. Right, I'm glad we got that out of the way. But where does that leave us?
Unless you have a story, you don't have a way to persuade people.
Well, Sherlock Holmes once said that once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. But he wasn't even real, so what the
What does he know?
hell does he know?
Ah,
No. To
sorry.
solve this
For the record, I did not watch this before, but yeah, what else would he say there? I suppose.
cold case, we don't need the help of a detective. We need a doctor. Because it turns out that the key to this whole strange mystery may just lie with a...
Actually, there's a weird thing that I was thinking of, though. Like, in scenarios like that, there's what you would maybe call, like, a psychological choke point, where if you're in certain scenarios, you could predict what, like, pretty accurately what any given person in that scenario would do or say. So if you're in a room and a gunshot goes off, like, those first couple seconds after the gunshot, everyone's thought process is going to be roughly the same. Pretty much, right? It's all going to be, what the heck was that? Where did it come from? Maybe running, or I guess after that it gets a little bit more dubious as to what people will do. Maybe they'll run towards it, maybe they'll run away, maybe they'll call 911 or something like that. But those first couple seconds, the initial reaction is almost identical in everyone. It's an interesting notion.
Little known medical condition that affects the body's red blood cells. The scientific name for this condition is hyperchromic anemia, but back in the Middle Ages it was known by a different name, green sickness. You can probably see where I'm going with this. There are several common symptoms of hyperchromic anemia, including fatigue and a loss of appetite. That last one might be significant given the children refused all food for several days. But by far the most striking symptom of hyperchromic anemia is that, in severe cases, it can give the skin a pale green tint. Might the green children of Woolpit have been suffering from this rare condition? Well, we have no way of knowing for sure, but it's certainly plausible. Like other forms of anemia, hyperchromic anemia is caused by malnutrition and iron deficiency, both of which were common in the medieval world. Seen through the lens of their green skin, the other details of the
Sounds
story...
plausible. We'll go with that one. Anyways, you can go check this out if you want to. 32, blah, 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 blah. I listened to more of that than maybe I should have, but yeah. Anyways, moving on. The 6-minute one by Critical Drinker we might look at here. Animal Farm. They're coming out with some new thing. In a less weird time, I would maybe be fine with this. To be I just don't have a lot of faith in Hollywood, so to speak, to do something like this right, but we'll go into that maybe.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this.
I parked the car! Let's have no one do that again!
Animal Farm.
Let us discuss the concept of death of the author, shall we, dear viewer? Based on the 1960s essay by the French literary critic Roland Barthes, it suggests that when it comes to assessing a piece of media, the original intent and ideas of the creator are less relevant than the individual perceptions and experiences of the audience.
Alright, guy.
Basically, it doesn't matter what
That's probably true-ish.
the creator of the work tried to say with it. Once it's released into the world, all that really matters is what you personally take from it.
That doesn't make sense.
And by golly, I do believe that Andy
Obscene.
Serkis is pushing that concept to its limits with his very unique take on Animal Farm, which, reimagines George...
There's a point to be made that I don't know if they could... The whole notion of doing Animal Farm as it was intended, having like the people who were initially the heroes turn into the villains, is going to be a really hard sell for a kids movie. It's not something I think they would do anymore. It's like having like the Wicked Witch, fall off a cliff into whatever, like particularly gruesome murders, or like it kind of, again in this scenario, having the people who start out as the heroes turn into the villains. It's not exactly something that they would want to do for like a Disney film, I guess, or in this case, an Angel Studios film. It's just kind of not on.
George Orwell's satirical critique of totalitarian communism and Stalin's cult of personality as a...
Sometime I want to finish the 1984, was it? I started it, got into it a little bit, but never finished it.
wacky contemporary animated comedy starring Seth Rogen.
Interesting premise, in any case.
Where the real enemy is a tech billionaire who happens to drive a Cybertruck.
But she's a woman.
Right.
You know, I can't be 100% sure with this one, but I'm pretty confident we live in the worst timeline imaginable. Look, I'm not against the concept of adapting classic stories to fit with contemporary events. As
Glory. He looks crinkly.
long as they stay true to the original themes and ideas. Like Apocalypse Now took Joseph Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness, which was originally set in 19th century Africa, and transplanted it into 1960s Vietnam. It worked in that case because both stories dealt with the same basic ideas: the dehumanizing and corrupting nature of power, the loss of morality when the civilization that underpins it vanishes, the dangers of imperialism and colonialism. But what happens when you specifically set out to change?
Vietnam was, I think this is Vietnam or Korea or something, man. Those were some nasty wars. I think I had an uncle who was over there. Terrified of snakes now. Yeah, he had some sort of experience where he was, he was, I don't know, he was crawling or something. I don't know. He was, just really doesn't like snakes.
The very core of the story to deliver a completely different message than the one intended by the author. Well, you end up with Animal Farm, I guess. But why does it really matter? Well, it matters because Animal Farm just so happens to be one of the most iconic and widely referenced political satires ever written, a scathing critique of...
Again, like I was saying before, I don't think they would have the wherewithal to actually make a story where, like, okay, it's... in their minds, I think it would be almost too nuanced, too complex for kids to comprehend. So they would never make a story like that. Where it's like, okay, this is like the people who start out, they become the rulers, and then they become exactly what they overthrew. Like, I feel like, I don't know if Disney or like just modern Hollywood or movie makers would want to put that lesson or that, types and shadows type of thing into, well, it's not even types and shadows. I feel like they wouldn't want to put that into a kid's movie because kids' movies have to be simplistic and they have to be boring and codified, formulaic. That's the right word, formulaic. There's a formula to it all.
Totalitarian communism and Stalin's cult of personality, and a pretty biting observation about human nature, our greed, our lust for power, and our willingness to compromise our moral principles for personal gain. In short, it's not really the sort of thing that lends itself to a goofy Seth Rogen kids comedy whose main message seems to be rich people bad. Maybe you should lead by example, Seth, and donate all that money you've got.
I agree, it's quite... It's quite ludicrous coming from people. you know what I was avoiding. It was quite ludicrous coming from people in Hollywood. The notion of we hate the rich, eat the rich, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, sure.
In the bank.
So the champagne socialist type. That's what we're dealing with here. That is an unsettling laugh. You ever hear Jimmy Fallon's laugh? That one's odd.
Now, you might find this hard to believe nowadays, but once upon a time, I actually used to read books, and George Orwell's works made quite the impression on teenage me. So I have to admit,
I mostly listen to books these days.
I do have a certain attachment to Animal Farm. The original novella roughly follows the events of the Russian Revolution and the eventual rise of Stalin as sole dictator and the purges and totalitarianism that came with him. The animals of Manor Farm stage a rebellion against their corrupt and incompetent human overlords, i.e. the Russian aristocracy, and usher in a new society based on the promise of equality and freedom for all, as imagined by Old Major, basically a combination of Marx and Lenin, who dies before he can see his dream accomplished. In the power vacuum that follows, a pair of pigs, Napoleon and...
Okay, not to get too involved in politics, it feels like communism just in general as like a form of governance of the masses is just... it's wishful thinking. And it generally ends up kind of with the same issues that it tries... Well, in this case, obviously, there's the story that kind of like... It feels like that is the cyclical nature of it. Like, you're just trading one type of tyranny for another type. It's like, oh, we have to try and get as much money as we can. Oh, no, we just have to try to get as much, political power as we can. That's the new currency or whatever. Right.
Snowball, Stalin, and Trotsky fight for control of the farm until Snowball eventually gets pushed out and exiled, and Napoleon becomes the supreme leader. The more time that passes, the more his rule devolves into a dictatorship as he purges the farm of his enemies, real or imagined, and keeps...
How could this have happened? No, there's a weird thing where, like, it feels like... I tend to think it's good for the government to be a little bit afraid of the population. It's good for the population to be a little bit afraid of the government, right? In this case, the whole notion is that, like, you have the government who's already in control of, the military, judicial systems, police, to some extent the economy, but you're effectively, at this point, like, if you look, most communist regimes end up doing this, where they give the government entire control over the economy, over ideology, over... like social aspects of their life, as well as just the litigious or judicial aspects, as well as foreign affairs and whatnot. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Giving them more power.
the population in perpetual fear and poverty, despite assuring them that they're better off than they were before. Eventually, he and the other pigs become so human in their behaviour that they end up negotiating and trading with actual humans from other farms, walking around on two legs and hosting lavish parties while the rest of the animals watch.
Based. Two legs is where it's at.
From outsides. With all their greed and their lies and their lust for power, they've become the very thing they swore to overthrow. I mean, it's not exactly subtle, but in case you still don't get it, Orwell himself straight up explained multiple times what his intent was with Animal Farm. It was a straight up critique of Stalin.
Okay, so would have 1984 or whatever it was, would that have also been a kind of a critique of communism? Or is that something different? I have to look that up sometime. Or totalitarianism, or autocracies, or something.
And the authoritarianist dictatorships of the time, but more than that, it was a critique of the political ideals that brought them into existence in the first place. No matter how noble your intentions, and no matter how much you might promise freedom and equality, a new class of rulers and aristocrats is always going to rise up, just with different names. The cycle of revolution, corruption, and exploitation keeps repeating.
I think it is true that generally speaking, capable people will always rise to the forefront, even if it's not money that they're getting, even if it's just power or responsibility. It's always going to happen. People who are capable in a certain direction, or ambitious, or they can lead well, they're always going to be trusted to a greater degree than other people. They're always going to be brought to the forefront. They're always going to be asked to take on more responsibility. And to some extent, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like the best thing that democracy does really well is facilitate the peaceful transfer of power, so that when, not if, but when governments go bad, they can get those guys out relatively easily, right? It feels like, to my mind, that is actually the true marker of whether or not a system of government actually works well, is not how well it does when there's a good leader. Any system can work well when there's a good leader, actually, right? Arguably, some of them might do better when there's a good leader, because the leader can do more and they're not hampered by as much red tape and checks and balances and whatnot. But the problem is, when, not if, the leadership goes bad, how easy is it to get them out of power? And at what point do you end up with heads on a pike outside the castle? You need some sort of almost violent uprising in some cases to overthrow that. So that's the one thing that I think democracy does really well, better than almost any other. It gets a lot less dicey in any case.
Because fundamentally, humans are not equal, and you can't force them to be. There's always going to be some arsehole who wants more money, more resources, more power, and he's willing to break, exploit, or just
No, never mind.
straight
Enough
up
politics.
rewrite the rules to get what
Maybe.
he wants. It's all very interesting.
Seems like that's kind of what this one is wrapped up in. So we'll think that we're talking about politics in an abstract sense.
And stuff. The obvious problem these days, though, is twofold. One, the satire is kind of lost because most people now don't even have a functioning understanding of what the...
And Hollywood is a group of commie dingalings. Okay. It's just, I still find it ironic that they are, because they're the champagne socialist types, Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot of self-awareness there. Put it that way.
Russian Revolution was, never mind the finer details, the timeline of events, or the major players involved. And 2, the idea of a Hollywood movie that suggests there might be a few problems with this whole social...
In this case, we might watch all of it just because it's a... I don't know. Yeah, we'll be done there. We'll be done there. All right. You can go check that out if you want. Animal Farm, this was probably a bad idea. For the record, I don't even know what Andy Serkis is... Has he done directing before? Is this one of his first projects, or I don't even know like much about him as a person, which I enjoy. I'd like not to know more about him. We'll see how he does on this one, though. All right. Moving on, we're gonna play a little bit of Evil Genius, which I may or may not have done some while in between here. So, good times. Oh. Stupid thing. I have clippers here. The revolution has begun. I actually got onto the second floor, I think. Which I'd never actually done before. I don't know if it's something where I was digging in the wrong place, so like that you couldn't get through the rock that was supposedly above or something. Just something I should have done back when I started. Check and make sure all the audio is working on the other thing. There we're good. I think. Alright. Testing. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Alright. Now, what are we supposed to be doing? Kidnap notable engineers on stage. Yeah. Because who doesn't love kidnapping people? Europe.
Your vaults are almost full.
How dare you tell me what I know? Sorry, a little bit more. Minus maintenance, sorry. Something could be doing. What is this nonsense? Alright, pull this back in here a little bit.
A scheme has succeeded.
So, alright, now, research. domination. I don't know. Okay, so I need the engineers first.
A scheme has succeeded.
Fusion generator. Comes with microchips, right? Alright. Instead of nuclear, which I think would be fission. Fusion generator.
A scheme has succeeded.
Mercenaries. Why do I only have... Uh, 10. We'll go with 10. Okay. Bang. Wow.
Brainwashing successful.
Oh, there was a thing there. That's why that was being confused. Oh, video game things. Okay. What the hell is wrong with this? That's fine. Why is this not fine? Like, some glitch? just catching on fire, I think. Hopefully the fusion generators are a little bit nicer that way. Alright. Now. Hey. Super Rogue. Dynamic. Oh, darn it. I got 3 of them. Kid Yeah, it was annoying. The other time I was trying to get some stuff stolen, like some tech, and like I had just set up this kind of gauntlet here. It got to the point where like literally it could not, like no one would come back through here, or no one was able to get through here. Kind of done the job too well, unfortunately. All right. Let's set up some of these traps again. Giant fan. Still can't do those. Oh, what am I missing here?
Salaries paid.
Freeze right. Alright, what else we got? Double cannon. Poison darts. Variety is the spice of life. Boxing. Man. What a giant fan. I don't know what it's supposed to do, but apparently it's supposed to be good. I might need a bigger area actually to do it, I think. Yeah, I think you'd have to do some sort of area where they can actually get through, but yet it won't, yeah. Anyways, that was kind of a cool idea, but... Bubble cannon. Let's do this one. Bubbles. Psychopath, that too. Alright.
New side story available.
The end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway, but no,
A scheme has succeeded.
I did my way. Regrets, I've had a few. Wait, I supposed to be stealing AU particles still? I thought Garden was done with. What's going on here? Just blended right in at the bottom there. Alright. Alright. Let's see what's what here.
A trap has been triggered.
In a second. Oh,
I demand that intruder be located and captured. I want that intruder grabbed as soon as you spot him. Find and capture that intruder quickly. I will kill this one, only if I must.
get it, old man. Furnace. Get the traps in place. A lot of workers here. Alright. Move.
A scheme has succeeded.
Am I missing? Here we go. I have 2 guards and 1 mercenary. I'll have to go out to the train.
An agent has been subdued and captured.
Let's see what we got in the workshop.
We have captured an
freeze
agent.
rate back. Nice. Nice. Actually have 10 power fighters reading on the world stage.
Brainwashing successful. Your scientists have made a breakthrough. Interrogation success. An agent has given us their secrets.
Alright, let's see about these new fusion things. 40, so it's double the output of the last.
brainwashing successful. A criminal network has been upgraded.
Still got quite a bit of leeway there, so let's go with that.
An interrogation has succeeded. We have more intel.
Alright. 4 guards, 1 mercenary. They train a mercenary. Why is no path? Maybe just now we have 1 person or something. Supposed to be training mercenaries here too. Or do you have to have a guard? These statues from the Midas device. There we go. Crane it. Think.
Salaries paid.
I think they're just coming back after that last soldier type thing. Train faster. Sell these things, right? Get certain ones in certain areas or something. If you're swapping between areas, I don't know if they allow you to do that. That's so wrong,
A trap has been triggered.
at least.
A trap has been triggered.
Alright, security. Let's back to where it used to be. I'll just... Good man. Oh my.
A trap has been triggered.
Alright. And still not enough mercenaries. I'll leave it on the agents. Alright, keep coming in. Now we'll go in here. There we go.
A trap has been triggered.
Resolve's not very high, is it?
A trap has been triggered.
Alright, let's check out. I don't know if they cause more heat or less heat.
A scheme has succeeded. An intruder has escaped captivity.
Pay no attention to that intruder. See,
Capture
I
them,
need
sorry.
that intruder taken in once you locate them.
A criminal network has been upgraded.
This one may be spared for a time.
Alright. Now.
An intruder has been captured. A criminal network has been upgraded. Brainwashing has converted a prisoner to our cause. A criminal network has been upgraded.
You're pretty detailed with stuff. This is a sushi.
A criminal network has been upgraded.
Pretty legit.
Salaries paid.
You can hear the little jackknapes eating.
Succeeded. Succeeded. New side story available.
I should actually start with this. Crime Lord, Crime Lord, Crime Lord, Crime Lord, Super Agent. Super Agent. Who hunts the hunter?
Oh, look. Another evil genius who thinks the world's their chessboard. I'm not impressed.
I don't need you to be impressed, merely obedient. Stand aside while I work.
Yeah, I don't think so. This is my turf, you hear? This is my turf. Trait freaks, unite!
You mistake me, Mr.
Sorry.
Barracuda. Your
Not
home,
racist. Well,
your
I mean,
empire,
it's,
the gun in your hand.
from,
I can take it
Napoleon
all
Dynamite.
whenever I want.
Series.
It is a nice piece, but if you really think you can take it, I dare you to try.
Put this. Ow. Take damn it. No, that's not what I wanted. Just beaming stuff into his brain or something. Apparently I'm the main. Finally left that recognition. Yes. Huzzah!
Side story begun. A criminal network has been upgraded.
Alright. What else do we got? Minions. Traps. Knockout gas.
New
Killer
research has been completed.
Laser disco? Even the coolest cats won't be able to resist many beats of captivating rhythms. Nice. Fake safe. Nice. Slippery floors. I feel like that would be funny. Operations. Big screen. What I got here? Compact lockers. Let me check up. Lifetron.
Research has begun.
No, this is the one I wanted. All right. Go with that. All right.
Research has begun.
Oh, what the? I guess maybe it requires. No, this is a whiteboard too. Never mind. We're good. Alright.
Task complete.
we got all those things done. Now research, I believe. No, not. Alright, research.
Research has begun.
Yes. Alright, get that done. Get it all done. I should do something. Start replacing some of these beds. Some of this from here. Luxury bed. Yes, I think these. I don't know if these are. I should do the compact bedding thing. There we go. Nice. Rockets. Oh, here we go. Nice. High temperatures on your minutes. Huzzah. Let's go with that. Get any sort of heat control on these types of things. Just let it get a bit on. Players gonna play.
Salaries paid.
Yeah, I think we might be done with this today. I'll go back and redo your video again. Alright. Thanks for watching and whatnot.